Hey everyone, welcome. So this is maximizing your performance and profits. And what we're going to be covering today is a little intro about PS Group, as well as Jen and Siri, who are both very impressive ladies. And I'm always a little intimidated talking to both of them, but they happen to be nice. So that's always a plus. We'll get into what is executive coaching as a practice. What is the difference between coaching versus therapy or consultant, so to speak? What are the core tenets of coaching? Who should hire a coach? Like, is this for me? Is this something that would be appropriate for my goals and for my lifestyle? We'll get into how it actually works. Does it work? And then we're going to be doing a live interactive coaching session with Ms. Dahl, who I would like to shout out as very brave for being game for this. So I'm really excited to see this. And then we'll have some tips and takeaways for a recap. So who is PS Group? Well, we are a creative marketing agency. We're a traditional ad agency, except we work exclusively with sex workers. And the vast majority of us, with the exception of 2 people, are sex workers. We have a team of about 20, and we're spread out over 5 countries. These are our services. We're always adding new things. So we do branding and strategy, graphic, copywriting, website design and build, search engine optimization, Reddit, Discord, and then we're going to be offering TikTok. Finally, video editing, post-production, and you guys get to hear it first. We're partnering with Elevated X to offer custom designing of their interface. So if you're looking for a Clip Store membership site, definitely reach out to Elevated X, and then we can make it all pretty. So I would like to introduce our 2 speakers today. The first is someone who probably doesn't need a lot of introducing to most of you, Siri Dahl, who is an award-winning adult film star. She has been the past year, right, that you've been brand ambassador for Adult Time. She is an activist. She works at PS Group as one of our brand strategists. She is a cat mom, and she is frequently found eating.
I ate a banh mi yesterday.
So is there anything you want to say, Siri, just to introduce yourself?
You covered it pretty well. And I feel like I see a lot of people who I'm familiar with in the chat. So yeah, y'all can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Siri Dahl. I'm very excited about this. It's going to be fun. I'm a fun little executive coaching guinea pig today.
We love you for it. And then moving on to, let's see, yes, Ms. Jen Nash, who is a friend of mine. I've done sessions with her. She's amazing. She has built a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio and has worked in a variety of industries such as finance, tech, advertising. She is the author of the best-selling book, The Big Power of Tiny Connections, and she now specializes in coaching individuals who really want to just get to that next level in their life. So I really want to thank her for coming in and working with all of us today. So Jen, would you like to add anything to that before we get really digging in?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. You are awesome. And that is like an awesome introduction. And I loved your introduction for Siri. I was like, gosh, aren't we just all rock stars? So Carly, I mean, I am really, really excited for this. And I think it's such an honor to support everyone on this call and to like get to deep dive publicly. Like you don't do that very often. And again, thank you, Siri, for being so brave. I echo what Carly says deeply, like very, very brave. I bow to you.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I am actually going to hand it over to you two now. I'm going to turn my camera off. Jen, this is yours. Please just tell us about how you sort of got connected and your curiosity about the industry really started.
Thank you so much for asking. So it's interesting. I was in a very long-term relationship with someone who had been in the BDSM and kink space for pretty much his whole life. And when we initially started dating, his passion for being a sub of a very specific kind was a fundamental part of our relationship. And we actually went and searched out a dom in New York City, and her name was Mistress Natalie, still is. She is awesome. And over the course of several years, we worked with Mistress Natalie. I would come up with session ideas, brainstorm them with her. I would assist. And you know what? It was really interesting because over time, my appreciation for what she was doing for not only my partner, but our relationship just grew and grew and grew. And it really expanded how I saw sex work because I did not get the same person later on in the evening that left the house. I got someone that had really just taken a giant exhale and was probably in a better headspace than probably the whole week before. And so I just have so much appreciation and a much deeper understanding for how much work goes into this. And, Mistress Natalie and I are still friends. Like she literally has my extra set of keys because she lives down the street from me. But I also understand how hard she works. And in talking to her and understanding how hard, so many sex workers work, I actually started talking to Carly about how are you guys supported? Do you have access to traditional support systems like executive coaching? And the whole, webinar that Carly suggested, which I thought was awesome, sort of fell out from that. So I think we have a poll next. And so Carly and I were curious. Have you ever considered executive coaching? I'd love to hear what you guys feel.
Oh, you guys are all answering. I love it. So we're going 50-50. Wow.
That's awesome. Super interesting to know. Oh, good. Well, believe it or not, and a lot of people when they come to me for a discovery session, they're not entirely sure what is executive coaching. Totally fair question. And so usually it's different based on the coach, and it can be different based on what you need. But coaches coach either once a week or once every other week. The cadence is really decided by them. And what it is it's a different approach to your goals in life. And it's funny, I was talking to a client recently and I realized nobody would second guess an athlete having a coach. In fact, they would think you were crazy if you were competitively showing up without a coach. How can you move forward without having that sounding board, without having someone else's eyes looking at how you're doing things, right? We can all live without a coach for sure, but could you do more? Could you get further? Could you get more joy, more money, more success? Absolutely. And I think the next step is people often ask me, what's the difference between coaching and therapy? I have a therapist. And my answer is very succinct. Therapy tends to deal with past wounds. Therapy really lives in, okay, that stuff impacted you like this, and now it's showing up like this. And so you're really spending a lot of time trying to make sense of wounds, but also like show up and deal with them today. Coaching's not dealing with wounds. We are very much dealing with, what do you want for tomorrow? What do you want for 3 years? What do you want for the rest of your life? Let's really dive into your goals and get forward looking. And so I like to think of coaching as it's a jetpack that you strap on, and you're going to go through time in a much more efficient way. Because like I was saying, everyone gets where they're going to go at a certain pace. But in the end, if time is your most valuable commodity, what is going to move the needle forward? You know, what is going to create the shift, create the aha that's actually going to get you to make changes so that you can get to the happy place a lot faster? Yes, love another poll. So one of the things that often comes up for me is people are working so hard. People have a lot of things that are pulling on them in their lives. So do you ever feel like you've lost your sense of self in all of the things that fill your life? We're just curious. So we've got yes, frequently, yes, sometimes, yes, but only sometimes, rarely. No, I'm all me all the time. And this was one of those questions. It's a little subtle, but super curious. What kind of answers are we getting, Carly?
We are currently at 24% for yes, frequently. Most people at 41% are yes, sometimes. Yes, but rarely is 28%. And 2 rock stars are saying no.
I love it. But at the end of the day, I think it's very human to lose ourselves, because we are pulled in so many directions. It's very challenging to stay aware of the things that you really want. I think it's very challenging too. Like, and being held accountable is one of the nice things about coaching. And so I think we have another poll. Yeah, this is a fun one. Overall, what do you value the most in life? Higher income, greater sense of happiness, healthy sense of self. And this is anonymous, right? So you really just get to be honest with yourself. At the end of the day, what do you think moves your needle forward with joy, passion, outcome? I mean, that's personally how I would define value, but of course, define value your own way. So is it money? Is it joy? Or is it just a healthier sense of you? What kind of answers are we getting now?
We're going heavily on a higher income and greater sense of happiness, with a few of us saying healthy sense of self.
Is it like 40-40 for the higher income, greater sense of happiness?
We are at 48% to 40% to 12%. Okay,
awesome. I mean, I do think that there are aspects of money that do buy us happiness. Okay, so what's coaching like? Before you jump into coaching, there's a couple of things that I always sit down and I explain to my coaching clients or potential coaching clients. So number one, I'm an ICF certified coach, and confidentiality is literally the most central tenet of coaching. And if you cross out of that, you can literally get kicked out of the coaching world. So what does confidentiality mean? It literally means I cannot share anything that you have shared with me, period. So for instance, I am very clear with potential clients. I say, I will not even say that I have had a coaching call with you unless you give me permission to share that. You, of course, as the coachee, can share it as much as you want, because it's really your information to share. Additionally, like, coaches really are here to listen to you. We are not here to advise. We listen and ask questions, and the answers to those questions shape the highway of where you want to go. And, I want you to understand that today, Siri and I had a small pre-coaching session before. We dove into her core values and a sense of her gifts and her life's purpose, which is a discovery exercise that I like to do with my clients and potential clients. And you'll hear some of that when I take you through a grounding exercise. But then what we decided to do is we paused before we jumped into the actual meat of the coaching, and we didn't do it. So we have not actually dove into proper coaching together. You will be witnessing that live, totally raw. So that's like, confidentiality is really fundamental. So I want you to all feel very protected and know that your coach will have your back no matter who you work with. Super important. Okay, let's do another poll. So I just mentioned a grounding exercise, and a grounding exercise is very similar to meditation. So how often do you practice mindfulness? And by mindfulness, I mean meditation, visualization, deep breathing, breath work. I'm just curious what you guys are doing, if you guys are doing any mindfulness practices. What kind of answers are we getting?
We are getting almost the same for every single option. We are at 21%, 38, 25, 17. So I love seeing this diversity, and I love seeing that people do this, because I'm personally not one who does. So it is inspiring me, all of you who are saying you do this.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think is really personal. So I appreciate you even suggesting that we have this poll, Carly. Love it. I also agree. It's really always interesting to see how people show up. So before we dive into the coaching, let's talk about coaching clients and who hires a coach. So who does hire a coach? Well, it's pretty simple. People who want more. And Carly summed it up so beautifully in her intro. People who literally are realizing there's very specific goals that they want. They want to commit to those goals. They want support achieving those goals. They don't want to work in a vacuum. They want a partner, and they want a partner that's going to give them autonomy, but also confidentiality. So for instance, CEOs, they don't actually get to go walking through the halls of their company, no matter how big their company is, and talk about almost anything. CEOs hire coaches because they need someone who's actually going to be a great sounding board. So leaders, people who are doing things differently, people who are entrepreneurs. It's really hard to build your business, as all of you know deeply. How do you do all that all the time on your own? You don't have to. So if you are realizing that you have desires and outcomes that you want to achieve and you don't want to do them alone, great time to hire a coach and bring in some personal accountability. Yeah. And so I mentioned that earlier. Have you ever seen an Olympic athlete without a coach? Absolutely not. And so I think right now is a great time to open it up to some questions before we start, just in case you're not clear on anything. Oh, I've done business coaching. Is executive coaching similar? Yes, absolutely. So at the end of the day, it's really funny. Like, people are like, are you a life coach? Are you an executive coach? I got to tell you, if you want a coach to focus on business, if they are a real coach, they're asking you questions. If they have experience, they will ask you if they can weigh in, and then you'll get some mentoring. But traditionally, coaches are really supposed to create a safe space where they ask you questions, you answer them. They don't offer advice. That's not proper coaching. So if, for instance, someone told you they were doing business coaching, it's 100% the same as executive coaching. And the really interesting thing that I find is life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, it all comes down to the life wheel that we're going to dive into, which is, are you getting enough rest? Because if you're not getting enough rest, you're not actually going to be able to work the way you want to work. Are you developing yourself holistically? Because if you're not, again, your work is going to suffer. Every part of the life wheel, as you'll see, impacts your work. And most of you holistically embody your brand. So if you are not healthy and happy and grounded, you're not going to be able to show up for anything you're doing at your fullest potential. Hopefully that answered your question. And then we have, how do you support coachees on things, industries that you may not have experience or knowledge? So here's the good thing. I don't need to have, traveled to, I've traveled a lot. So I was trying to think of a place I haven't traveled. I don't need to travel to Argentina to be able to give you good advice in terms of asking you, what do you want to do? What do you want to see? What are the experiences you want to have? What brings you joy? What could bring you even more joy? You know what I mean? So I'm going to ask you questions that are going to help you gain greater clarity. I don't need to have had exactly the same experience. Hopefully that answers your question, Anonymous. I don't think there's any legality of helping FSSW. In fact, I was actually really surprised. One of my clients who is a sex worker was turned away for private coaching. And according to ICF rules, that's discrimination. Discrimination is not allowed. I am not doing anything illegal other than like supporting you achieving your highest self potential. Hopefully that answered your question. Carly, if you want to jump in at any time, like, please do. Do you feel we're doing well here?
I think we're good. I mean, we've got all these questions. I love it. So we can just keep going through them, and then we can dig into the session, because some of these questions I think will end up become clear as we're going.
Absolutely.
I love that you guys are asking these. Please keep them coming. Thank you.
Yeah. And Lily V. So I spent over 20 years working in advertising and marketing as a creative director. So my special niche is storytelling. And I just wrote a book, as Carly told you. It's called The Big Power of Tiny Connections. It's a super fun, snackable book filled with, guess what, stories. And it's stories from my life and stories from the lives of other people about how they got more from their lives through their connections. And it's something that I came to realizing that as I was living my life in advertising, and Carly and I have like interesting overlaps there, you're often trying to connect through your work. You're often trying to connect through artwork. And so I really realized that that was something that I love to do. And now I get to connect not only through what I do, creating a platform for people to achieve their goals, my words, and then I also speak. So my background really sort of just flows into this. And then my side hustle was real estate. And I talk a lot about that in the book, because similar to many of you, because I have spent time with a lot of sex workers in this sort of milieu, we want passive income. We have a vision for how things are going to go later in life. And I have been very driven by that. Hopefully that answered your question, Lily. Oh, yay. Thank you. So what are some of the methods or strategies a coach would use to help their clients? So you know what? It's really about where you're at. It's meeting you where you're at. So for instance, some of the methods are visualization techniques, breathing techniques, believe it or not, because sometimes I really want you to slow down and feel something, because feelings link us to action. If you don't think something is important and you don't feel that it's important, even though you might say, oh yeah, I want to go there, you're never going to pull the trigger. So I want you to embody thoughts and feelings. There's obviously weighted pros and cons, things like that, where people make pros and cons all the time, but then do you go back and assign number values? You can do things like that. There's all sorts of tools, but it's really, really, really guided by you, the client. I do not know what the difference is between a paid coach or a free mentor with actual experience and advice to give, except for the fact that one is a mentor and they're giving advice, and one is going to ask you powerful questions. And it just depends on what you want to achieve, I think. Okay, I think that's it.
Dive in, Siri. You ready?
Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned, first of all, again, hi Siri, thank you for doing this.
Hello.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. So normally what I do is when we start a session, I ask everyone to, everyone being me and the client, to make sure that nothing is going to take us out of focus. Turning off phones, dimming any like things that'll bing on your computer. I tend to do these on Zoom, but I also do them over the phone, really up to the client. And then I ask the client, would it be supportive to do a grounding exercise? Siri, before we start today, to bring you into your most resourceful and grounded place, would it be supported to do a tailored grounding experience?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And everyone who's on the call, I'm just going to invite you to play along. Just take a deep breath. If you're seated cross-legged, I invite you to uncross your legs and just like maybe sit up straight, close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. And on your next inhale, I want you to breathe into your core values of being a great companion, painfully cute, squishy and affectionate. I want you to breathe in, and as you do, ground yourself in your most resourceful space and know that you are here to be kind and forgiving. And in order to provide so much goodness, health, and prosperity to those around you, and to keep giving no matter what. On your next inhale, feel your lungs really expanding. Notice your stomach as it expands with the air and contracts. And just remember, you're so gifted, so deeply gifted. You're confident in front of the camera. You have a great karaoke voice. You travel and stay sane with no issue. And all these gifts, including being financially stable and responsible, and that you have a successful relationship, all of these gifts support you being that kind and forgiving, but incredibly nurturing human that you so deeply are committed to being. On your next inhale, exhale, just let all the stress go and ground in the present. And when you're ready, we'll get started.
That was lovely.
I'm so glad. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I forgot. It's so funny hearing you say the stuff from, yeah, it was great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So the last time we got together, you completed this life wheel with me. And for the people on the call, it's divided up into different segments. And you labeled, are you okay with me sharing what you labeled them?
Yes.
Okay, so she had 10. These are all labeled 1 to 10, 10 being awesome and 1 being less awesome. So she labeled primary relationship a 10, secondary relationship an 8, primary surroundings a 7. She had personal well-being at a 6. R&R is a 6. Personal development is a 6. Work was an 8, and travel and finances was a 7. And so I asked her, the way I ask all my clients, what would you like to work on now that you've got this wheel in front of you? And she said, personal well-being. And her personal well-being was at a 6. So yesterday I checked in with Siri and I said, how are you? How are you doing? How's your personal well-being? And she said, what did you say?
7. Because we did our first initial thing, like 3 months ago. So in the last 3 months, I've progressed from a 6 to a 7. Yay me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you. And so I asked her, did she still want to work on that in today's session? And she said yes. So this is how I would normally kick off a session with a client, and we're going to start now. So, Siri, you're at a 7. There's a lot of good stuff in a 7. And I'm actually really curious, what took you from a 6 to a 7? Are you aware?
Yeah, I think I'm fairly aware. And that's part of why I wanted, that's something that I still want to prioritize and work on above any of these other items on the life wheel, is because I've had some minor health issues over the last couple months that have kind of forced me to slow down and change up how I manage my time. I haven't been able to go to the gym physically like as often, which is normally like my number one form of like self-care and like me time. So it's kind of like bad and good, because having some like minor health stuff come up that is preventing me from living my life at the same pace that I was just 3 months ago is I am having to be a lot more conscious of how I'm arranging my day and like really making sure that I am giving myself proper time to like relax and take care of myself physically, mentally, etc. But also I know that like that being the main reason why I've gone from like a 6 to a 7 is it wasn't really because I didn't really initiate that, it was a reaction to kind of being cornered into having to change some of my patterns. And I don't want to, once I figure out like health stuff and like get over that, I don't want to go right back to where I was. Yeah.
Got it. So, moving forward through the session, if you see me taking notes, it's because I want to be able to use your words. So I'm just going to let you know that if you see me writing, it's because I want to be able to use your words back to you. Cool. Also, do I have your permission to interrupt you if I just want to like streamline things? Would that be okay?
100%.
Okay. So what I heard was you had a health issue that sidetracked you, slowed you down, and forced you to be more aware of what I'll call Siri time. And Siri time actually brought you up a whole point in the personal well-being category. And the good news is you're digging it and you want to keep going with it. So if you had to list off all the good stuff that makes the 7 a 7, what would you list?
Should I get pretty detailed with that? Or because I mean the first thing that comes to mind feels like pretty specific, but it's simply that I have like one of the side effects, people might want to ask, I don't want to get too into detail, but basically I just had a couple minor injuries that all kind of happened at the same time, and it's nothing super serious. It's just shit that takes time to heal, and I just have to give it time. So essentially, one of the side effects of going through this has been just massive fatigue lately. And
okay, because I'm going to slow you down. So I want you to just list the good stuff.
Okay.
Yes. What is making the 7 great? So for instance, more Siri time.
More sleep. More sleep.
What is the definition of more sleep? How many hours?
A solid 7.5.
Okay.
Which is usually my ideal. 7 is where I function the best.
Okay.
And on a regular schedule too. Pretty much going to bed and waking up at the same time.
What else?
Food.
Okay. What do you mean by food?
Just putting time and effort into cooking good food and not grabbing a protein bar on my way out the door, but actually sit down meals.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. How many sit down meals did it take to move you to there? A day, a week?
For me to feel the consistency is what makes the difference, but it's like got to be at least like 3-4 nights a week that I like have a full like a home prepared sit down like meal with my boo.
Okay. I love
Mhm.
that. 3 to 4 nights of sit down with boo. Perfect. What else is making it a 7? What else is the goodness?
In the last 3 months, my travel schedule has been less hectic.
Okay.
And yeah, so part of that's just because of the holiday season, but it does help.
Okay.
So
Anything
more
else?
time at home.
Okay, more time at home.
Hmm. Probably I should have thought of this like first or second, but like one of the biggest things is seeing my friends more often.
Oh,
Hmm.
if you had to correlate that or calculate that, when you say more often, you went from X to Y, what was that shift?
All right, so the pre, like the before part, the X was like literally just working all the time and like not really being super proactive about like friend time until one of my friends texts me and asks if I want to hang out, and then I respond and we might plan something. But a couple of my close friends here and I have started doing like a dedicated, like we're like every Wednesday we go get dinner, you know?
Okay, so now it's weekly. So I'm hearing weekly friend time is contributing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else is making it a 7?
There's not any other big stuff that I can think of that's like
Okay, awesome.
anything in the, yeah, I think that's about it.
So more sleep, 3 to 4 meals with boo, intentional dinners, sitting down, quality, less hectic travel, more time at home, very proactive time with friends once a week. That is all making it a 7. So if you're a 7 now, where would you like it to be?
Ideally a 10. That's
Okay.
like, why wouldn't I want it to be a 10, you know?
I love that. Thank you. Okay. So when would you like it to be a 10? We're February 2nd.
I don't know. I'm afraid of like giving myself too little time and then feeling disappointed in myself. I would say like 6 months to a year feels like a realistic timeline.
Okay. So hang on.
I mean, I went from a 6 to a 7 in 3 months. So
Great. So would you be up for a very short visualization?
yeah.
Okay. So would it be okay if I invited you to close your eyes and just take a deep breath for a second?
Mhm.
Okay. So I want you to just go inside. And so 6 months from now is July 2nd. Does July 2nd feel right for being a 10 on the personal well-being spectrum? Or does February 2nd, 2024 feel more right? What calls to you?
February for sure. 1 year. Yeah.
Okay. So you could feel that in your bones, right? You could just feel it. Okay. So you have a year to go from a 7 to a 10. So what is going to, if you want to come back to me, we'll jump into what's going to make it a 10. What is more good stuff that's going to make it a 10? You're at a 7.
Taking care of my health, like continuing to take care of my health, but you know, I want to follow up as needed and figure out what is like specifically causing the health issues I've experienced and do everything I can to improve that and to prevent any similar like injuries from happening in the future. Continuing to prioritize rest and actually take that seriously.
Okay.
Managing my travel schedule well, like, and by that, the biggest part of that for me is being honest with myself about how often I can travel and for how long. I tend to just get excited about opportunities and go, yeah, I'll go there, I'll do that. And then at the end of 1 month, I'm like, why did I do that? You know? so being realistic about that and continuing to kind of protect myself by being wise about travel schedule and commitments in that way.
Okay.
I would say also continuing the habits that I like have kind of like worked on and developed in the last couple months, just out of like more necessity than anything else, but continuing to keep with those in a way that it just becomes like second nature.
Okay.
And doesn't feel like I'm going out of my way to do something nice for myself. Like,
When you say continuing habits, can you expand on that?
well, what I had in my head when I said that was really like, you know, the habits of like doing a nice dinner a couple nights per week and like having a weekly kind of hangout with friends.
Yeah.
Those are big things because those are things I always like want to do, or I always did like, you know, in the last couple of years and just didn't really. I was just like, someday like I'll do that. And like now I've been doing it really regularly for 3 months and it's great. And I'm like, okay, don't lose that.
Got it. Okay. So far we've got like continue to take care of your health and prevent anything from like happening like that again. Continue to prioritize your rest, really getting that 7.5 hours every night, protecting yourself and being wiser around traveling, which will also most likely support the nice dinners with Boo 3 to 4 times a week and the weekly friends. What else would get you to a 10?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
that's it. Do you think if all of that was in place, are you a 10?
You know, I mean, it's all kind of like, I feel like it's all in place now. I just feel like it's sort of like a phase, or maybe I'm afraid it's a phase, which is why I like wouldn't even call it a 10 right now. But like, I don't know.
Okay. So let's go with that vibe, right? Let's play with that feel. Everything is in place. Everything feels really good. How long does it need to be in place so that it's not a phase? Is it a month? Is it 2 months? 3 months? 4 months? Or is it the year?
I would say probably like 3 months would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you up for doing another visualization exercise?
Yeah.
Okay. Going inside really supports us, I find. So take a deep breath. If it helps, close your eyes. It's just you and me. And so it's March and April are done. So it's 3 months down the road, and we're actually in May. And everything is going the same way. You only travel a certain number of days. You're having dinners with your friends every week. You're rested. Your health is in order. Healthy, delicious meals with the Boo are happening several times a week, if not more. How important is it to be in that moment right there in May on a scale of 1 to 10? Staying inside, just feel a number for me, 1 to 10. How important is this, honoring this for yourself?
A 10.
And now staying in that place, feeling how good it feels, because last night you slept that 7.5 hours and you saw your friends. How are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 for personal well-being? Are you a 7 still? It's been 3 months.
Okay, I'd feel like a 10.
Okay, awesome.
Mhm.
All right, so coming back to me, what would you like to work on in the session today? Because you have identified health, prioritizing rest, protecting yourself and being wise around your travel, or continuing the habits with your boo and your friends. What would you like to jump into in this session?
I think probably the friends thing. Because for me, that's the most precarious out of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of protecting that time, what would you do so that you made that a priority?
Well, the reason that it's been better lately is just because of like my couple friends and I that have these dinners, like saying like, let's do that. Let's decide in advance and say this is the thing that is like going to be every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, and that's an assumption unless someone says otherwise that they can't make it.
Got
So
it.
like doing like kind of having to schedule it in really and like be smart about that is the thing that has made it actually work for me.
Okay. So if this is scheduled in, would you plan travel around that and hold that almost as sacred? Because if you're there for friends, you're also going to be there for boo.
Mm-hmm. So
could you plan travel around that?
Yes, I could. I have been. What it looks like more is like, because I have to, I have a contract with the studio, so I have to be in LA every month to shoot, which is just usually 1 week that I'm gone. And since it's not every single like week that we've been doing like the friends dinner thing, it's like I think when we decided it was like every other Wednesday. And we've pretty much kept with that. So I basically just let them know like, hey, this is the week I'm going to be gone this month. And so I'm not necessarily scheduling the travel around that, but I'm making sure that I communicate it in advance so that things can be moved if they need to be.
Okay. So what would you need to know at the end of our chat so that you would be really clear on holding sacred space for that friend time?
I think what I need to know and like because I know this conceptually, right? That like I am an extrovert and I don't get drained by social stuff. I actually feel very fulfilled and energized. Like an example is like when I go out to Los Angeles, because I stay at a house with like friends when I'm out there, I'm like surrounded by a lot of people and I'm going to set every day and stuff. Then I come home to Kentucky and it's like me and my partner living in a house with our cats. And I see friends here, but it's like I'm not surrounded inherently by a lot of other people, and I'm not going to set for work. So I have a lot less social interaction when I'm at home. And I usually feel like high on like this like social interaction that I just had when I come home from being in LA. And then after a week of being back home, I start to feel this like social malaise kind of.
Okay.
So like I know that the like planned social interaction is really, really important for me, and especially like for my mental health. Yet, even though I know that conceptually and I know that that's true, it's very, very easy for me to tell myself, you don't need to hang out with anyone this week. Like you have too much to do. You have all these custom videos to shoot, like all this stuff that needs to get done. Like you can put that off. You can hang out with them like 2 weeks from now. So it's really too easy for me to like deprioritize friend time.
Okay. So, but at the same time, what I'm hearing is you come down, it's almost like subspace and you need self-care. You know what I mean? You come down off the high of LA and you just have not been prioritizing almost the energetic human interaction care that you need, which is also going to continue to fuel your ability to keep showing up for yourself at a 10 out of 10 rate. So what could you commit to doing for the week after LA on a consistent basis that's going to shift you?
Well, one of my, like a good friend of mine who lives in my neighborhood, we've talked about doing like double dates with our partners, and we've done it like once, but this friend is always like usually the first person that I reconnect with when I get back from being out of town. You know, sometimes she watches my cats when I'm away. And I just don't get to see her as often as I'd like to generally. So that's kind of the first thing I think is like, it'd be fun if we did a thing where whenever I get back from a trip, we could just the following week do like a little double date, like go out and get dinner.
So how would you commit to doing that? And how many days after LA is ideal? So you come home. Is it 1, 2, 3? Because a week is too long. You were very clear about that. So where in that 7 days is the ideal double date? It's there.
2 to 3 days after.
Okay. And how could you make this something you're going to commit to? Because consistency for the next 3 months is what powerfully moves you to a 10. And you felt that this is 10 out of 10 important. So if you can consistently factor this in, it's going to create the shift you're looking for, is what I'm hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would feel ideal for you in terms of what you would commit to?
I mean, I'd just reach out to my friend. She knows that I get stressed when I travel. And I'm sure that if I were like, hey, do you want to actually like make a habit out of like hanging out like a couple days after I come back from LA, she'd probably actually be thrilled for me to ask.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what self-supporting structure could you put in place so that you make this happen? Is it a Post-it note, a calendar reminder? What could you do to make this happen?
Calendar reminder, because I know my trips in advance. Like I know when I'm going to be in LA in both February and March right now. So it would be very easy for me to just go, okay, 3 days from when I get home.
Okay. And when will you do that after this call?
Like immediately after this call.
Amazing.
I'm tempted to do it right now, but I put my things on do not disturb and I'm not touching my phone because that's a whole Pandora's box.
However, I do have clients who actually we take a pause and they put it in their calendar and it gets done with us on the phone because that way it happens. Is there any other support that would help you prioritizing connection after you return from LA?
I'm sure there is, but that's like my creative brain isn't going there right now or something.
Well, I feel like you're doing very well with scheduling and you're doing very well with awareness. And what I've heard is consistency is actually going to move your needle more than anything. So it sounds like the awareness of the need for consistency of connection right after LA is going to be a big thing for you. And I'm actually really curious, like just in the last 25 minutes, what have you learned about yourself?
To be honest, like that's probably the biggest thing because until we started talking about this, I didn't really, it's like somewhere in my head, I know like, yeah, you need to actually get out of your house when you like come back from a trip because it doesn't like the complete like difference in social environments like freaks me out. And I've known that, but I never like said it out loud and really acknowledged it openly. It's just been like a feeling in my body and my mind. So that's actually, I can say that like actually talking about this and saying it out loud does feel like I've actually learned a new thing. Because the fact that I just announced that in front of you and 33 people is like means that like, oh yeah, that is like a significant thing for me that I've just never really taken seriously enough, I guess.
That's awesome. I'm so happy that you've like had that shift. And also I want to acknowledge that you would get to your goal in 3 months if you would just shift into the consistency. That was you highlighted that for yourself. So you literally lopped, I'm terrible at math, but like 9 months off your goal. which is phenomenal, all in like 25 minutes. So bravo. Is there anything you would like to acknowledge yourself for in terms of this session today?
Being a cool lady.
Aw, you are a cool lady.
I just couldn't think of anything better to say.
Would it be okay if I acknowledged you?
Oh, sure. Oh, thank you.
I think you're a badass for showing up and doing this in public and for being vulnerable, because admitting that we need care at any point is vulnerable, and also like actually thinking about what's truly important to you and what's going to shift your overall happiness and well-being. And as we were talking about, your well-being dictates every other aspect, right? You can't be the baller you are in LA if everything else is falling, right? Yeah. So I really want to commend you for slowing down, dropping in, and just being vulnerable and present. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are super, super welcome. So that was about a 30-minute coaching session. I'm just curious, overall, Siri, how was that for you?
That was amazing.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually kind of can't believe that we covered that in 30 minutes. So that's wild.
Well, I really appreciate the clarity that you sunk into, because it's not something people necessarily come to quickly, especially not when they're on, a 33 participant Zoom. So fantastic. I just want to thank you again. And I want to thank Carly for putting this together. So we're going to open this up to we're going to do another poll, and we're going to do a Q&A. But at the end of the day, I want to talk about some of the things that most coaching clients get out of their sessions. It's very, very personal, as you've seen. And Siri shared, her personal life with us. But at the same time, if you are focusing on financial growth, that's what you get out of a session. If you're looking for planning and goal setting, that's what you get out of a session. You want more clarity around next steps. You want to prioritize self-care, because you are your business. We just saw that perfectly demonstrated. At the end of the day, you're going to get a more holistic, a more 360 perspective on how can you step forth into the bigger, better life that you really do imagine for yourselves. And at the end of the day, you do it with someone who's on your side. You get a sense of partnership, because, feeling like you're kind of battling it all uphill sucks. And having been an entrepreneur, I totally identify and empathize. So that's sort of the takeaways. So I'm curious, out of the life wheel, what would you have picked on to focus? So we threw all the categories in here that were in the life wheel that Siri just did. And I'm just curious, what would you guys pick on? And we had some really lovely comments in the chat, which I appreciated. So thank you, Lily. I sincerely am disheartened when I hear that you are judged and shamed. It's not okay. Because you really do change people's lives. And I've seen that with my own eyes. And I appreciate your kind words. And I don't know, you guys don't know me, but I'm like a super, super female advocate. I know we have men and women on this call, but primarily women. So super, super supportive. It's an uphill battle. So Carly, how's our poll looking?
We are looking very diverse. One person would like to focus on secondary relationships, some rest and relaxation, a few personal wellness, well-being, personal development, work, and finances were the most popular, though.
Yeah, I get that a lot in my coaching sessions. Personal development is huge. I also think that personal development is very much like personal well-being, which impacts your work and your finances very directly. There was another Q&A. Carly, is there anything else you want to touch on before we jump into Q&A?
Would just like to say that you are welcome to reach out to us at PS Group if you have questions, or if you're interested in connecting with Jen. Her information is here. But I just want to say, like, you guys totally blew me away. I am so proud of Siri. Like, you are my hero. I'm gonna need weekly dinners. And Jen, I want to be when I grow up, which is a little late, but yeah. So I just want to thank both of you so much. I hope you guys found this to be a beneficial experience, and we will open up for the rest of the Q&As. So if you guys have comments, please drop them in. So Jen, there are a few questions. And, we open it up for literally anything that you guys want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did I get my coach training? So I am a coach for life, which is, all the trainings are done online. They are based in Florida, and it is a core value, life purpose, grounded training. And then you get your ICF training through the ICF programming. You have to have a certain number of hours to get the ICF certification, and you submit that to them. And they are probably the most famous organization that you can join. So hopefully that answers it. What does a good client look like? So a good client looks like someone who is ready to commit to creating shift in his or her life. People who show up, are committed, and are really willing to be very present and very real. And Siri is an ideal client. Thank you so much for that. And, she wants awareness, and we went after it, and she got it. And so that's awesome, because at the end of the day, I do decline people, especially people who I think are going to waste their money and my time. I really do this 360 to support people and to support shifts. And I'm going to move on to the next question. Hopefully that answered your question. So what would you say to a client who felt they really needed to improve in all 8 of those areas? Welcome to life. And felt overwhelmed trying to decide what to focus on first. You are not alone. Life is big. And I probably would make the pie smaller. Start with maybe 3 sections and pick between 3. And then add another 3 and pick between those 3. Just make your selection smaller. I find one of the best things we can do when we're overwhelmed is reduce the choices. Maybe you just pick between 2. So for instance, you're like, do I want to work on primary and secondary? Which one? I want to work on secondary. And then you move on. Do I want to work on work and finance? Work. And then at the end, you eliminate, as though you were in I'm not good at sports, but I was going to say like a hockey pool or something. Canadian background showing there. So I'm a huge fan of Siri, and actually questions for Siri are welcome too, please. I'm a huge fan of Siri and look to her for an example when I think about my future, but I'm curious how coaching could benefit someone with a much smaller scale of reach, as well as a niche market, such as not necessarily being visually consumable. So again, this goes back to, if you want a bigger life, if you want more, working with a coach is going to get you there faster, because you're going to identify the steps you need to take with greater clarity. In a way, it's like we budget for TVs, we budget for vacations, we budget for cars, and we set aside time to do the research for the TVs, the cars, the vacations. But where do we budget and spend time for achieving our happiness, our goals, our greater return? That time is something that you're doing with a coach, and then you walk away with whatever it is that you decide you want to walk away with. And if that's a to-do list, if that's greater clarity around what you need to focus on, that's going to streamline you forward. And I hope that answered your question, Lil. Thank you so much for asking your questions, all of you. Super appreciated. Because generally speaking, if you're wondering it, someone else here is wondering too. Any more questions? It sounds like we're good. Awesome.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you had a good time. We hope it was very thought-provoking, and we hope it was really motivating for you to go out and slay in your business and your life and every aspect. So again, thank you so much to Siri. Thank you so much to Jen. And yeah, please fill out the survey, and we hope to see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you, Carly.
Bye.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks.
You guys were awesome.